And welcome to the NHL Draft Preview episode of Habs Unfiltered, affiliated with the Hockey Writers and Crier Media. I'm your host, Blain, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Trege Wilson
Hello.
and Matt, Mr. Handsome, Mr. Perfect, Matt Smith.
Hey, good afternoon.
We got to hype you up, man.
Hey, every time you introduce me on the show, I just wait for what's going to be added to my name. So, and I look forward to it. So,
Ladies, swipe right on this guy.
yeah.
But he likes a little
That's
hot
still-
too on that thing. I'm just letting you know that right now.
Spit on that thing.
Spit on that thing.
Speaking of spitting, we're talking about the NHL draft in this episode. So the Stanley Cup final is completed finally. It only took 27 years. And in a couple of days is the NHL draft. So we're recording this a few days in advance of the draft. Things have, just started to come out of the final. I'm sure there's going to be moves made by the teams, including Montreal. But for now, nothing's been traded away by the Canadiens, and we're just going to assume that they're going to hold on to these assets while we agree that the 26th overall pick is likely to be gone. We'll pretend like it's not and talk about those players as well. But for the second straight year, the Montreal Canadiens hold the top 5 pick. And
Woo-hoo!
This year, it does seem like there will be some offensive players picked around that area. So that being said, why don't we talk about that 5th overall pick and what we believe will happen with it? So, Treg, we'll start with you.
All right. I believe Montreal's in a very good position with this top 5 pick to get a can't miss prospect. It's not going to be like last year where they're going to go. I don't think they went off the board with Reinbacher because Reinbacher was going 6th regardless. But and if some other teams are looking at that player around the same spot, then that's not a reach. I think Hughes had a plan. He wanted to build the defense and the goaltending, and that's exactly what he did. And of course, all the other stuff going around with the other players. But I think with this year, it's almost can't miss prospect. Demidov is the guy I would like to see picked there. I have my doubts he's going to make it that far down. However, I do believe 2 defensemen will go in the top 4. The Bob father put out his list today, and he has Siliev and Lushnov, I think, going 3rd and 4th. So that means that a guy like Lindstrom's going to be available to Montreal at 5. I don't see them passing on a Demidov or Lindstrom if they're there at 5. Either one of them's there at 5. I really would question if they did. Iginla's another guy that they could pick at 5 if both are gone. Both, because I know Columbus wants a big forward or a big player or defenseman. So, I mean, if Senecki's name's been run around there now, again, Bob McKenzie has him 11 with 2 top 5 picks, I think you said, Matt, or 1 top 5 pick.
Yeah, I think it was 2.
2 top 5 picks. So that means 2 scouts have him in their top 5. I like Senyek. The problem with him, he's the biggest boomer bust. He's either going to be a superstar or he's going to be a third. He's going to be a Josh Anderson, one or the other. And that's last year. Montreal got kind of shit on for not taking a risky pick. This year, everyone wants them to stay far away from the risky pick. But it's just because there's so many safe picks available. Like if you get Lindstrom, Demidov, or Ginla, I think even Senyek, you're sitting in good shape, and I think you're going to be fine.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to have that option. Matt, what's your take on this?
Well, we all know Celebrini is going number 1, so everything's gonna really hinge on that Chicago pick. If they say, "Hey, we want a goal scoring winger to play with Connor Bedard," well, they're going to run and get Demidov. However, I think that a defenseman is likely to go, and I think Lefshunov's is going to probably be the guy. But I really do believe I'm there with Treg. If a guy like Caden Lindstrom, who's a kind of a big power center, is available, and his play style fits an NHL style that you can put him on the wing and he's still going to produce. Very athletic guy, put up 27 goals in 32 games. The injury's a little bit concerning. There
Yeah.
have been a lot of talks regarding it, and apparently it's scaring some away, and some people say that it's not a really big deal. But the guy's work ethic and his athleticism is second to none. So to be able to bring in a prospect like that, I think would be incredible. But I do think that if it comes down to Lindstrom and Demidov, they're going to be leaving Las Vegas with one of those players. I really do. I don't believe that it's the year to make the reach. And I do agree with Treg as well that a guy like Trege would be another guy that would be on that list. And I'm not talking just based on who his dad was, but if
Yeah.
he's anything like his father and the work ethic that he had and the Hall of Fame career that he had, and obviously he's got that upbringing. He's been around the league, etc. Put up 47 goals and 84 points isn't anything to kind of to look beyond. And his performance at the Linka Gretzky, etc. I wouldn't be disappointed if they picked him either. But I do believe it'll be Lindstrom or Demidov. I really do.
Yeah.
Just based on need. It's not. I said it's not the year to do a reach. I think last year they again made the defense better, made the goaltending better. I can't say that Reinbacher was a reach, but I think he was the more of the safe pick. This year it is more. You know what you need. You know what your fans expect. You're trying to make the next step. You already have way too many defensemen. But if they do pick a defenseman, I'm saying it's going to be Sam Dickinson.
I see that's
I-
where I think that's where I'm kind of might get a little pissy is if they do, only if a guy like a Ginla, Lindstrom, or Demidov are on the board, and then they go with Byam or Dickinson or someone like that. The only way I'll accept that is if there's a trade made, and the
Right.
reason they're drafting that guy is because they are getting rid of a Gooley or a Reinbacher or a Mayu or one of their top young players that they think will be in the top four for a top six high scoring, that superstar guy I talked about in the last show type player. Only way I'll understand them picking a defenseman if they're leaving one of those three guys on the board. And since I'm a big Seneke fan, I would even pick a defenseman over him, even though a lot of people, the Bob father has him 11, so a lot of people are thinking that'll be a reach. So, but
Well, I see
For me,
him as a late bloomer. He's starting to explode during this draft year of his. He had that big growth spurt. So he's got the hands of a smaller player. He's starting to learn how to play in his big body. So yeah, he took a big leap this year. And is that a boom bust? Absolutely. We don't know what's going to happen because he doesn't have more than that one season at this size because he had that massive growth spurt in the off season. Um, but I do know that a lot of scouts have him higher up on their lists. Now, I'm not disputing the Bob Fathers list. I'm just stating that all it takes is one team to have him at the top of their list,
yeah.
and that's all it takes. It
For
could
me,
be a
if
team in eighth.
if the one guy that I'm looking at on the list, if he falls to 5, he'd be a hard guy to pass on. That would be Levchunov. I don't think it's going to happen,
I
but
agree.
that's on the right. That's a right-handed shooting defenseman. They don't have the depth on that side. Um, he would be the one that I would be like, that would be a hard one to pass up.
I still, even
But
with
I, but
him
I, but
there,
but I would still go with the forward, but I could see the conversation being made.
depending
but
on the forward.
if he drops to 5,
Well, it's
that
going to depend,
means
yeah.
that
But
means
there's a lot of talk out there about Zeev Bayum right now. There's talks about Parka as well. There's talks about Dickinson. So who knows?
Yeah,
I just
Craig
don't
Craig
see the
Craig,
Habs.
Craig
Oh, go
Button.
ahead.
Craig Button said that Sam Dickinson's the most NHL ready player outside of Celebrini right now.
Which great, but I'm not drafting for NHL preparation. I'd be drafting to fill a hole, which I know that that's what the Canadiens are doing. They're trying to fill gaps in their core. Now,
No, I'm talking about
there's
another team
yeah,
picking
yeah.
picking ahead of Montreal, right?
Which I think Columbus is really well, Anaheim and Columbus are really the teams that are going to make it or break it for Montreal on their pick.
Right.
Well, from what I see, to me, it's Chicago and Columbus, because I think if Chicago goes defenseman,
Yeah.
you're almost guaranteed. Because I think Anaheim's going defense. I think they're taking Siliev or whatever defenseman,
Yeah.
Levy or Dickinson or whatever defenseman they think is there for them right now. Columbus is the thing, because they're either going to go. I mean, there's been talk of them. They took Senecki out to lunch or out to supper. They really like him. They want a forward with size. So to me, that screams Lindstrom if he's available for them. So if Chicago doesn't take Demidov and Columbus takes Lindstrom, that means Montreal gets Demidov. If Demidov is that good and he can't be passed up after Chicago takes the defenseman, then you're going to see Anaheim or Columbus take Demidov. So again, 2 defensemen must go in the top 4 for Montreal to get either Lindstrom or Demidov.
True. Now, I do believe that's going to be the case. I really do feel like Levshunov is Chicago's man. I really do. They really, really do need a right shot offensive defenseman to augment the offense for players like Bedard. Because Bedard's been, even though he was an 18-year-old rookie, he was the only one carrying that offense, really. And if you give him a little bit of help on the blue line, someone who could pass the puck up, he doesn't have to go down as deep. He doesn't have to expose himself to as much physical danger for the physical side of the game based on his size. So that makes a lot of sense for Chicago. Anaheim, they've got all those good young forwards. I know that Zegras is probably on his way out, but who knows what they're going to trade him for? Even if they do, they may keep him as a project for one more year. But I agree. I think they need another defenseman as well. Columbus, with Don Waddell at the helm now, God only knows. But he was saying he's going offense, which probably means he's going defense. So yeah, I do feel Demidov and Lidstrom are more than likely to be available for Montreal. I'd be happy with either one. But if both are gone, I would still go with Iginla. And not based on the bloodlines. Like you said, Matt, it's not his bloodlines. You look at as what he has done in junior and at the U18s, and the kid does nothing but score and score in big moments.
Yeah.
He shows up when it matters.
Berkeley Catton's an option too. I'm just throwing that out there.
Who?
Berkeley Catton. He's an option at 5 as well. I think I think his size is going to push him away, but he does have the skill to be a solid. But I mean, when you already have Newhook, Caulfield, and Suzuki in your top 6 under 6 foot,
you put up 116 points in your draft here, though. You're gonna be on some lists.
Yeah.
But then again, when you think about his style of play, do you want more of what you already have, or do you want to get things that you don't?
Well, and that's the argument, because Cole Eiserman's a name that people bring up all the time, because Cole Eiserman is the best pure goal scorer in that draft. I don't care where he's drafted.
Yeah.
However, Cole Eiserman is nothing but a pure goal scorer, and that's it. That's all he is. He has nothing. There's not much else to his game.
At this point in his career, yeah.
See, he's basically Cole Caulfield. He's basically Cole Caulfield.
He is, but Cole Caulfield, you see how he's rounded out his game. And Eiserman, in watching a lot of video from the beginning of the season to the end of the season for Eiserman, his game has evolved. He's added more of a defensive dimension because Playing defense means you get the puck back.
I just think you're drafting I don't like drafting the same player. And when you get it, and when you already have a player on your team that's pretty much the same, a little smaller, but that's why I don't think Yzerman's. I mean, I'm not going to say if Yzerman was picked fifth.
No,
at 5, I'm not going to go. No, I'm going to drop this toaster in my bathtub now. Like my name was Paul, and they just picked Reinbacher, and some people know who I'm referring to. I would be like, it wasn't my pick. Not really that happy. I'll do the same thing I did with Reinbacher. Wasn't my pick, but we'll see what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if like I said, the only way I'll be pissed at this pick is if Demidov or Lindstrom are there and they pass on him for, say, Finicky or a Catton, or I think if Lindstrom's there and they pick a Ginla, I would go look at the back injury was too much of a risk to them, and that's why they didn't draft him. That's the only reason why I would think Lindstrom's not drafted, and then I would accept that. So
yeah. Now, I believe that the greatest indicator of future action is past action. So you look back at what Hughes has done at the draft, and there's a running theme with all the players he has selected. It's what's their compete level, what is their desire, and what is their work ethic like. So the desire to improve, desire to evolve and change, their coachability, that work ethic. Those are the things, those intangibles are what make or break his picks. Like everybody they picked have a standout specific talent. All of them. But they all have those specific intangibles. So who in this draft expect to be around that top 5 hold those? Do you believe Demidov holds those? Because there's not a lot known about him, but I don't think he's missing any of those pieces.
like I say, Demidov, Iginla, Lindstrom all hold those. So that's why I'm saying and same with again, I'm going to bring him up. Same with Senecki. He holds that as well. Look, he grew 5.5 inches in the offseason last year, and took him half a season.
Ask any married man. That's a lot.
That's like half. That's 5.5 inches more than you started with, and and he took him a while, but he worked his way into to learn how to play with his new size, and his second half of the season was mind-boggling. He was one of the best players in the league in the second half of the season. Now, still a bit Bambi-ish, but again, you literally grew almost half a foot in a 3-month span. So, that's it's not like Demidov going from 5'11" to 6.5 foot, 6 foot and a half. It's we're talking almost a person, and a little person, and we're so I don't think Seniac's the guy at 5. I just don't be shocked if he is the guy at 5, because there's a lot there. Like if you believe he's the boom and not the bust, he's probably going to be the best guy in the draft.
Could be. Now, I know for a fact a lot of scouts love this kid. So, and some of them may or may not be with the Canadiens. So you have to really be careful on crapping on the Canadiens based on some private list. They're not. They're basing it solely on what they saw, what their video, and the pure talent. That's flashy. I noticed that a lot of the private lists tend to go with the flashier players up high, which is fine. There's that skill level there, but skill alone doesn't make a great NHL player. NHL scouts tend to have a little bit more information than the private lists do. They've talked to the coaches, they talk to the parents, they talk to past coaches, past teammates. I don't know, the family, their they're billet families. Like they go and get more information, so they have a more complete picture. So I'm not going to be too quick to shit on the Canadiens based on who they pick, but my goal here is to try and guess at who they're going to get, and I do feel like it's going to be one of those forwards.
I think so. I think it'll be one of the two.
I think it's going to be
three.
Lindstrom. You heard it here first. It's going to be Demidov, Lindstrom, Senecki, Iginla for a defenseman.
Oh, defenseman.
Bet on it. Bet on it.
They're going goalie.
They're going goalie. Carter George, you're our Montreal Canadian. At 5.
They went Price at 5. Look how that worked out.
Yeah.
Everyone said Pierre Maguire almost lost his shit, but that was the biggest reach in NHL history.
All right, so we've kind of broken down that one pick pretty well. Looking back at number 26, the Winnipeg pick. Now, clearly, we all believe it's going to be traded for an NHL player, but barring that, or using it to move that up to a top 10, let's imagine it's sticking at around 26. There's no takers for what the Canadiens are offering. They're at 26. I still feel like around that area, they're looking at forwards again.
So do I.
Because it makes sense. That's in that zone. That's a lot of forwards that are in that area.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the Russian guy there,
Surin?
Chernashov.
Oh, okay.
Chernashov. I think he goes earlier. Andrew Basha is another guy I'd be looking at for 26. Mackenzie has Jet Luchenko from the Guelph Storm at 26. But I mean, all kinds of forwards at around 26 that they can pick from. It's Lucas Peterson, Tarek Parasak, or whatever you say his last name. Which people at normal names. Tanner Howe. Like there's a lot of forwards at that pick that they can take. But I mean, it's the 26th pick. Again, you want to talk boom or bust, you're either going to get a solid, the best you can hope for at 26, it's just a solid top 9 NHL player.
And around there, and I have a little bit of a bias, I'm going to admit, because it's such a crapshoot around that zone, I would lean towards a player out of the Western League right now. They play a more professional style out there, more NHL style. They have that more physical aspect to the game. So I think that their games would translate better to the pros. And I'm looking at Andrew Basha. I know the Canadiens have talked to him a couple times. That's a kid who can score goals. That he's also a teammate of Lindstrom's. So if you get Lindstrom and Basha, I think that's a good one too. They did it with the Slovakian connection in 2022. So it's not unheard of for the Canadiens to do something like that.
I wouldn't even mind them trading that pick up and going with a Lindstrom or Demidov and say a Senecki. Okay, say you get the top 15 pick and you can get Senecki in the top 15, or you can get a Ginla, you get a top 10 pick. I mean, they would win the draft if they did that.
100%.
I don't know too many teams that are in the top 10 that are going to be trading that pick away, but
the Devils would be willing, depending on what you give them.
The Devils would be willing. Maybe.
11.
I can see more of a 10 to 15 pick they can get at, and then you might have Senecki there. I don't think a Ginla will be there, but you might have Senecki there. I don't know if
Patton's probably going to be available around there.
Yeah, Catton will be available. Trevor Conley. That's another guy you could pick in the top 15.
I'd stay away from him.
Yep.
I don't like him. I don't like his attitude.
Well, just because you don't like him, Matt, doesn't mean they shouldn't pick him. You're one of those guys. Oh, I don't like that guy.
Yeah, he's my red flag.
Yeah. So I know what the red flag is from, and it makes sense that whole sharing of that odd photo. But I'd scouted him this year pretty heavily, and I spoke to him several times through this especially at that World Junior A tournament before he went to the World Juniors and did what he did. Connolly, he's a skilled player.
He is.
And he's not that bad of a kid. He is focused on the game, but as you're at, say, 12 and Cole Eiserman's still sitting there, you go for him.
Absolutely.
100%.
Listen,
I would even
Montreal's
go,
not afraid to pick a player that shares photos, okay? It's just not something they're afraid to do.
well, that's not what I'd be worried about. I'm more looking for things that would fit the Canadiens better. And while Connolly is a very skilled player, he's still slight. So if you got Eiserman, who's a little bit smaller, but he has a more elite shot, that would fit better. Someone like an Adam Urasek on defense, sure. Even Liam Greentree out of Windsor, I think would be an excellent pick around, say, 12 to 15.
I'm saying if you get him, take Igor Chernyshov. I don't think you can go wrong with that one. If there's just like, I mean, I'm looking at the full first round pick by McKenzie. I think it's his new one. I hope it's his new one. On EP. Maybe it's not his new one. I don't know when this came out.
Should probably just go to
Today.
TSN and get the new list.
Yeah, we'll go to TSN. Never mind. Just ignore what I'm doing here. But
Yeah, his list has changed from the last one. That's for sure.
yeah, I was just looking at it. I'm like, oh, this must be his new list, and I'm like, no, that's not his new list. I don't think it's his new list, but it has changed because he had Eiserman. The one I was looking at, he had Eiserman as 4, and I was like, that can't be right.
Well, while
So we got
Trege's
to get let.
while Trege's
go
doing that, I'll throw mine in while Trege's getting his list up. For myself, if they keep number 26, I'm looking at Cole Baudouin out of
Yes.
Barrie.
Yep.
Another guy that very athletic, two-way center, hard on the forecheck, one of those kind of players. Offensive game, I think, is still untapped. I put up 62 points this year with 28 goals, so it's nothing to look past or anything. But I think that there's a bigger part of his game. I can see him being a solid third line center at the NHL level. And if you can get that at 26, especially for a guy that could have a long career, there's someone that I would look at. If they take Demidov, I wouldn't mind pairing him up with another Russian, and I'd take a chance at that Igor Surin. I really would. Another guy.
Yeah, that'd be good.
A hard forechecking forward. Put up 22 goals this year, 52 points, 42 games in Yaroslavl in the MHL. Be another guy to have around another Russian. I think it would be a bad thing.
I do think that if they do hold on to that pick, I would not be surprised whatsoever if they went for Sasha Babat out of Muskegon. The kid can score. He's a great playmaker. He competes hard. He's got all those intangibles we spoke of. It'll take him a couple of years before he's ready. He's going to go, I think, I can't remember what university, but he's going to go down to the NCAA. So if you're looking 2-3 years down the road, this is a kid who could be a second line center. So I would not be surprised with that. So, but again, it'll likely be traded. So that's pretty much everything. Do you guys have any last minute additions to the show before we call it off?
Yeah. Prediction for the 5th overall pick. Blaine, go. One person. You can't say could be who. You think Demidov's going to be available and go? Yep. Matt?
I think it's going to be Demidov.
Ooh. Yeah, I'll go with Demidov.
Yay,
I think he's going to be there. Now I know, hey, Grant McKegg, the Montreal Canadiens draft pick guru, who usually gets their pick correct every year, he doesn't think Demidov's going to be there. He thinks he's going to go 5, and he thinks they're going to go with Lindstrom. I think he said Lindstrom, but if I remember correctly.
That's very likely, like we said. But if we're going to make a prediction, we're going to go out on a limb. We'll go Demidov.
Well, again,
just so that we can
we're
close
all
that
going to be
loop
sitting
with-
in front of our screens
Yeah.
there on Friday, so it's gonna be interesting.
I want them to do that just so they can close that loop and satisfy people who are pissed off they missed out on a Russian kid last year. Here you go. Here's a Russian kid. Enjoy.
That Russian kid's playing next year.
But then you know just as well as I do that even if they do pick Demidov, then it's going to be the Michkov Demidov comparison for years.
Forever.
And you know that's what's going to happen.
And there's going to be people pissed off they didn't pick a defenseman.
Right? Right.
I'm going to be pissed off they didn't go with a goalie. Just to be
Probably.
pissed off. What the hell, man?
All right. So on that note, that puts our draft episode preview episode to an end. I hope everybody enjoyed our return with our couple of episodes this week, and hopefully, once Trege and Matt find a producer, they can start putting them out every week while I'm gone, enjoying my my all-inclusive 0-star cruise. So again, thank you guys, everyone, for listening and tuning in, for all your comments and your well wishes. We really do appreciate that. We love the community that we're a part of now. And remember, if you're talking about it, so are we.